But the meat of our conversations tonight is going to have to do with the upcoming City Council study session on November the 30th, and SJAA's policy priorities and a very specific policy proposal we're going to be taking into that study session in the hopes that the council will move forward with it. So without further ado, welcome. Thanks all for coming. A really quick refresher on SJAA and our mission, because we'd like to do this at the top. We do this at the top of every core team meeting we have. We have sort of three key goals. We want to build public will for arts and culture in San Jose. That means both with the general public, but also our elected officials, build political will too. We want to amplify our voice and your voice, the creative community's voice, and help you elevate your advocacy and make you better advocates for arts and culture. And then we also want to engage the community, engage a broad community of collaborators across sections and across industries to build collaborative efforts around arts and culture in San Jose and beyond. A real quick update on some of our advocacy work over the past half year or so, some things we've been pushing out in email, but you might have heard about. Really quickly, we did a lot of advocacy, and we really thank everyone in our community for the advocacy around the city budget process earlier this year. As a result of that advocacy, but also a result of some council leadership, there was a $1 million dedication of surplus funds in the city budget this year to supplement the Arts and Cultural Grants Program, which has been hit incredibly hard by the drop in the transient occupancy tax, or the TOT, the hotel tax, which funds almost all of those programs. So the mayor proposed and the council accepted a $1 million allocation from this year's budget surplus to that work and to those grants to make sure that the city was able to continue the program at the level that it has been at. And that's been a fight and a struggle for us for the past 3 or 4 years during the pandemic. There was no change at all to the TOT allocation. More than likely that would have to come through a ballot measure anyway, but there was very little conversation at the council level around actually doing that. And in fact, staff kind of poo-pooed it to some extent, at least in the near term. In total, the city stated at least that there was a $16 million investment in arts and culture across all funds. It's definitely debatable, how much of that is going towards real arts and cultural programming and how much of it is going towards other things that could be called arts and culture, shall we say. And right now, it's important to note that for next year and several years beyond, the city is projecting budget deficits, budget shortfalls. So we can certainly expect a fight over funding for all sorts of things, but especially arts and culture in the next few years. So we would appreciate your support in that. And by the way, I'm so sorry, I should stop really quickly, introduce myself for those who don't know. My name is Peter Allen. I'm a proud founding core team member of San Jose Arts Advocates. And here with me tonight are some of my fellow core team members. I've got Amanda. Hello, Amanda. Got Karen. Hello. And Brendan. So thank you all for being with us tonight. And we're happy to answer any questions. We're going to make this a pretty informal conversation because we're not going to have a huge crowd, I think. And we'll be sharing this out again afterwards. Getting back to the presentation, we also had a couple policies at the state level that we helped to advocate for with the help of California Arts Advocates and Californians for the Arts. They're sort of our sister organizations at the state level. The first was AB 812, Assembly Bill 812, which allows for local governments to reserve affordable housing in cultural districts for artists who are at risk of being displaced. So there are a number of state designated cultural districts and locally designated cultural districts in California. And this bill will require basically that I believe 10% of the housing, of any housing that's developed in those districts, is dedicated to artists. So, and that was passed by both houses and signed by the governor. So thank you very much for everyone who sent a letter or just did a one-click email to support that and with the governor. So thanks to him for signing that. And those of you who've been advocating with us for a little while will recall last year, we were advocating on a bill called SB 1116, which provides funding to support small nonprofit arts organizations in California with basically being able to pay their artists in the wake of AB5 and other changes to labor law that are causing a lot of stress to those organizations, because obviously they want to pay their artists, but now they're being it's becoming a lot pricier to do so. So this is a fund that will help support those organizations in doing that and help us continue to hire and employ artists across the state. And it was passed last year. However, the funding was not approved in the budget process. This year, however, we were able to push through a bill that allowed that provided funding, $11.5 million of funding for that to get that program off the ground. So thank you very much for your advocacy on both of those issues. And it's great to see success for arts at the state level and local level. So a reminder of sort of SJAA's key priorities for this year as far as policy at the city level. The first is a private percent for art, which we're going to get into in detail tonight. And our goal was to get the policy off of the priority backlog and then get staff to begin developing a proposal. We were also advocating on the TOT, or the hotel tax, to reallocate the 40% that currently goes to the general fund to arts and culture, and explore potentially an increase in the TOT overall. But those would more than likely require a ballot measure, either one of those things. But we have begun the process of of advocating on that issue. And artists in residence in city departments. So this is the idea here is embedding creatives as staff in city departments. This is happening in other cities and counties. I think LA County is doing this, and a number of others. Amanda's nodding her head, so I know she's aware of that. This is and the purpose really would be to improve community engagement around key issues like planning, housing, development, and other areas, and using artists or creatives to better do that. City staff is not always the best trained at community engagement and the best real messenger, honestly, for that work. So we're really excited to explore that. We've received pretty good feedback from council members on that concept, at least, and surprising to us, in fact, the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs actually is hiring, or was facilitating the hiring of an artist in residence for a program at the city level that we found out about, not by happenstance, but after we'd already begun advocating for it. So we'll give you more updates on that as it develops. But this is something that's more of an ongoing, longer-term policy priority for us. So what's next? As Jeff Bartlett would say, if anyone's a West Wing fan, what's next? So here's the big news, and I can actually update this slide as of today. So during the budget process in the spring and early summer, the city council, while considering our advocacy, voted to hold a study session on arts and cultural funding. This was proposed by Councilmember Omar Torres, and accepted by the council. So the council will be having a study session on Thursday, November 30th. I should tweet that right now. We'll just say, I'll put this out of it. 30th. Thursday, November 30th. And it's going to be 9 to 12 a.m. I'm so sorry to everyone who has, work or lives. But the meeting itself and the study session is one piece, right? It's really the end of our advocacy. We're going to be doing a lot of work before then, and we're going to need your help to do it, to advocate going into that study session. So the council is going to be exploring sort of 3 different buckets during this session. And this is all at council direction from Councilmember Torres, and also a memo from the city manager's office. They're going to be exploring a private percent for art policy for private, or percent for art policy for private development, which again is one of our policy priorities. So we're really excited to see that they are looking at that specifically. And we were actually name checked in the memo that proposed the council exploring this. So they will be looking to us for leadership, I think, there, and we're going to be giving it to them. They're also going to be discussing potential changes to the TOT allocation or to the TOT itself. And then they will be investigating the feasibility of other funding mechanisms for arts, including potential ballot measures. There's talk of a tax or some sort of tax measure to support quality of life departments like libraries, arts, parks, and then figuring out a way to parse it out after that, or specifically for arts and culture. And these exist in other areas. It could be through a signature gathering effort. It could be something that the city council proposes themselves. But the city has hired, or the Office of Cultural Affairs has hired consultants to research all of these things and not make proposals or recommendations to the council, but to pretty much offer them a menu of all the things that they could do to improve and enhance arts and cultural funding in San Jose, and allow the council to sort of pick and choose from the menu, or to take it or leave it. And from our perspective, we could certainly sit back, wait and see what the consultants propose or suggest, right? And then we could pick and choose our own menu of things that we would like the council to do from that list. We want to be a little more proactive than that, as is our want. So we're going to be making some very specific proposals of our own going into that session, and not just asking the council to direct staff to explore these things, but to actually take up these proposals and come back with an actual policy that can be implemented. So I do apologize. It's Thursday, November the 30th, and the time will be 9 to 12 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I will update this slide before it goes out to the general public. And then what we're going to be doing around the study session is again, we're going to be creating a framework for a private percent per hour policy. We'll discuss that in just a minute when this deck is concluded. And we want to get some feedback from you tonight about that and some insights. We were already scheduling and meetings with our council members and the mayor to brief them on this proposal and to ask for their support. We're going to be targeting certain council members to take the lead and to potentially write memos, suggesting and directing staff to take up our proposal. We're going to be creating talking points for you and for everyone else out there in advocacy land to help support our efforts. And we're also developing visualizations and graphics that'll help in our advocacy. And we've had a wonderful intern from a local high school who's been helping us with that work. In fact, here's one piece of her work. So Grace Wang, our wonderful intern, has developed this chart, this graphic based on our input, that shows the long-term allocation of the TOT going back about 20 years to 2003, prior to the time when Arts and Cultural Administration was funded by the TOT. Now it is funded by the TOT. Previously, it was not, as you can see from the graph. This is just an example. You don't need to absorb this right now, or there's no test on it. But this is an example of how we can use data and graphics to really emphasize our point. And you can see here the pretty obvious shift, right, in TOT allocation. Once administration funding started coming out of the TOT, we saw a drop in other funds, right, the funds for grants and other areas. So now this big chunk down here is this big chunk down here is now dedicated to administration, which could all be going to, everything under this blue line could be going into the grants programs and other arts and cultural programs, if they were still funding administration out of the general fund, which is what we feel it should be funded. We'll get that later. How you're going to be able to help. So we're going to be making our policy proposal available to you if you would like to read it in advance. We're going to be pushing it out there to the council. So you absolutely want to at least review the top line points and again, offer us feedback. We would hope you can show up, attend the study session on the 30th, or at very least send a message to the council and join public comment, and then speak up, right? We'll give you pointers, we'll give you prompts, and we'll allow you to raise your voice in support of arts and culture. We have also launched pretty much our first community survey. We want to know more about our community, about arts advocates in San Jose. Why are you an arts advocate? What do you think of our policy proposal? So we'll have some specifics about it in there. And how can we help you improve your advocacy? We would encourage you can scan this QR code if you like and take the survey right now. If you're on our email list, you've got a link to it already, and we'll be pushing that out on social. It's on our website. So please take the survey if you can. It takes about 3 minutes. I took it myself. It's painless, and it is anonymous, although we do ask for your email, because that way you can get a copy of your responses, and we can follow up with you if we have any questions about some of your feedback. But we'll keep it publicly anonymous as far as any data we share. And that closes Friday before the Thanksgiving week. So we'll give you about a month or so to respond. And this is how you can get in touch with us if you ever need to reach us. Email, website, and then almost all of our social is San Jose Arts. Thank you for coming. Announcements, we'll do that in a little bit. We'll get back to announcements in a second. So I want to give everyone an opportunity to say a few words. And now, okay, great. We'll come back to everyone. And I wanted to take this time now to, one, maybe introduce our team a little more deeply, but also give you guys a briefing on some of the top line points of our private percent for art policy proposal. And I don't know if Amanda, would you like to maybe jump in and give sort of a brief background and overview of what we're thinking at this point?
I think not everybody knows what a private percent for art on private development is. And so
Sure.
I don't want to assume that everybody knows what that is. Actually, I'd rather do that. First, my name is Amanda Rawson. I am just for background. I am a public art consultant with a business called Art Builds Community with two other women colleagues here in San Jose. A lot of our work involves building public art plans for different cities, sometimes counties, and also project management on public art. So when it comes to putting together a sample policy on a percent for art program, that's something that we do as Art Builds Community on our for most of our projects. So what I've brought to the table is really an ordinance that describes a percent of a budget. So when you think of a percent for art, you're thinking of a percent of a certain budget, depending on what the ordinance ends up stating. So it can be on a let's see, on a permanent on a budget for a development once it gets passed by the city. And so say 1% of a $500,000 budget can go to a public art fund, right? It can go into a fund that, say, a city already has developed, or that 1% or some type of percent of, or less than the one, can support public art that's on the developer's property. That's the very basic definition. Other cities do other ways where the percent can support administration efforts for the public art staff, or it can support maintenance for a public art program. There's also the opportunities where a certain percentage can just automatically go into a fund, and then the rest of the remainder support a public art project on the private development. So there's a lot of different ways that a percent for art program can work. The city of San Jose has a public percent for art program. And when we say public, what we mean is it's on public buildings such as and public development such as libraries, fire stations, those kind of services that are created by the city, built by the city. So just so that people understand that there is a difference between the public and the private. I just want to make sure that was, I can get a little wordy, so I'm hoping that was clear enough. So what our policy draft is really thinking about how a 1% or 1.5% can be pulled from a project budget, and supported through a public art project, or the 1% can go into a fund, a cultural arts fund. Now that fund can support the grants, like what we saw on the chart prior that Peter shared, which is, we know as San Jose Arts advocates, and what we've been working on, grant support has dropped tremendously. The city of San Jose, hurting numerous of nonprofit arts organizations and individual artists financially. So there are many reasons why the Percent for Art program, it could really be beneficial for the city of San Jose. Additionally, San Jose is one of many there's many cities here in the Bay Area that have a private percent for art program, and it's kind of surprising that we do not. So that's another reason why we're pushing really hard on this.
Excellent. Yeah, and thank you for bringing up the public percent in the background too. So for those of you who aren't aware, and those who are watching this later who aren't aware, this has been a priority of SJAA since our inception. It was actually one of the reasons why I think we came together in the first place. It's been part of a private percent for art policy has been a part of the city's arts master plan for a number of years. It just had not been prioritized. It's one of those concepts, ideas that had been put out there, but never really taken up as a priority until SJAA really got involved about 4 years ago, 2019, in advocating for it, and successfully got 6 council members to vote to put it on their policy priority list. Right, the council. This is how the council tries to mitigate all the myriad policies they want to discuss and get put forward. They get together, or they used to get together once a year and determine a list of priority policies that they would direct staff to develop. Also, because staff just has limited bandwidth and time, and they can't be tasked with doing everything at once. So this is to help their staff parse out policies as well. So it got on the priority list, and of course, almost immediately afterwards, we went into pandemic mode, and the priorities of the city changed very immediately. And this and many other policies got pushed to the back burner. Coming out of the pandemic and emerging from the pandemic, the council did vote to keep this on their priority radar, but again, without a lot of movement in terms of direction to push it forward. So what we've been doing at SJAA over the past many months and earlier this year has been really pushing to get this back on the priority front burner. And we were successful in that they are having the study session. It's going to be one of the key points they're discussing there. And again, we were name checked and it was referenced as one of the key potential revenue measures that city could undertake, both through the city manager's office and also through some council direction as well. So we're very excited about the potential here. And we decided we thought we could, it would be very easy to go into the study session and simply, like I said, pick from the menu of things that the consultants come up with and say, we like these, we should do these things. But again, we also felt that at this point, the time is now. We've got a lot of development happening in San Jose. Development is coming back, and especially private development. And it's imperative that we take advantage of this opportunity and this timing. And we also just don't want to wait any longer. We fear that if the more we are passive in our advocacy and sort of take what comes, that maybe nothing happens, right? And it just stays on the list for a long time and never comes to fruition. So we've taken it on ourselves, and I credit Amanda and her colleagues for helping us for basically crafting an ordinance that we can take to the council, as opposed to an idea or some concepts, an actual ordinance with metrics and numbers and percentages, right? That we can take to them to then direct staff to come back with an actual proposal, an actual policy that they could adopt. And our goal would be before the next budget cycle in the spring of next year. So that's what we're going to be taking to the council in advance of the study session and asking them to champion. And Amanda, I don't know if you wanted to run through sort of any, some of the top line key elements of what we're proposing at this point. I know there's a spectrum, like you said, of ways that this could be applied to developments that we're proposing, but we wanted to make it flexible, that kind of thing.
I'm gonna wait on it, just because I have more person I want to review what we put together, and just because I know it's being recorded, I just want to make sure what we share out there will be, but everybody will have a chance you'll all be able to know what we share, because it's going to be public. So apologies for that. So
no worries. Yeah, I think that's completely understandable. I'd say maybe from a really high level, we're aiming to make a policy that's flexible, that allows the developer to work with the city on how they'd like to see this applied, right? As Amanda said, there's a lot of options out there, from developing space or public art on site at your development, to paying into a fund, an existing fund, or to paying into support other elements of arts and cultural programming in San Jose. Or it could be a combination of both, right? They could decide to do something on site as a way of reducing whatever fee they have to pay into the fund, that sort of thing. Then our goal really would be that at the end of the day, it generates not just revenue, but it generates what we're looking for: more arts and cultural programming, more space for us to perform and do our work, and to practice our arts, more grants and support for not just nonprofit arts, but individual artists, creative industries, which the city is doing a little bit of, but could do more with more funding. And also just generally create a more sustainable funding mechanism for the arts and culture in San Jose, because uh, to, up to now, the current state of things is very tenuous, and it is year to year, and we're, like I said, we're going to be fighting year over year in these battles. And the more resources that are available, it makes our advocacy easier, and it makes the council's job easier in terms of making sure these programs are fully funded. So what we're going to be proposing is going to be a very flexible policy, a very and with again a menu of options within the policy, right? That the developers can choose from. But the most important thing is that it actually happens. There are similar policies on the books at the city with regard to like housing, for example. There's an affordable housing policy that requires that any market rate housing development either pays into a fund for affordable housing, right, for the city to buy land or develop their own affordable housing, or the developer can dedicate a certain percentage of their housing units to affordable housing, right, in their project. However, with that policy, and this is kind of a bugaboo that I think we'll be trying to get around, oftentimes simply paying the in lieu fee, as they call it, is easier, cheaper, and much more efficient for them from a business and bottom line perspective than actually building the units on site, right? And because of that, developers almost always choose to just pay the fee as opposed to creating units. We would like to see more actual development happen of arts and cultural resources, and to not make it sort of an easy decision, right? It should be something where whatever percent or fee they're paying into the fund is significant enough, and equates to whatever they would be doing to do work on their own development. So we want to see things happen at the end of the day. Brendan, Karen, do you guys want to add anything as far as your thoughts? And we've been discussing this policy for last couple months in our core team, but I wanted to give you all the opportunity to say hello, and you could introduce yourself as well. Karen, do you want to go ahead since you're on camera and just say hello?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Kinzel. My day job is I'm the director of the Palo Alto Arts Center, and my second job is I teach in the Museum Studies program at San Francisco State University, but I live in San Jose. And so, of course, very invested in the economic and cultural vitality of the city. And so was really eager to find out about this group, and started to engage in January, and I'm really excited about the possibilities in terms of continuing to support artists and the cultural sector during this, what really is still a recovery period post-COVID. So it's been an honor to work with such smart and talented individuals. And so I'm happy to be here.
Brendan, you want to say hello? I know you're eating. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, thank you, Peter. Yeah, I was trying to grab a bite as we're doing it. I think folks that's folks here. I think everybody, Catherine and Ted and Jana, it's great to have you each here. Brendan, San Jose Jazz, been involved with San Jose Arts Advocates, since we got going. I don't think there's a lot I feel like to necessarily add to that private percent for the art policy piece at this point in time. I think as Peter had mentioned, this was something that was the council put onto its priority list years ago, in prior pandemic, and it's been something that was what has been a priority. We're trying to raise it back up now that we're sort of in a post-pandemic era, I think there are some interesting questions to be had about the nature of commercial development and how things are going to be playing forward in San Jose, and how that plays into putting, I think as Peter was touching on there, what parameters might be about development sizes, or what types of things that might be carved out or included, or what the resources could go to. And I think that's going to come through the city's own part of adapting and considering a formal policy that's the right fit for San Jose, and gathering input from other parts of the community, including the developer community and all of that. So I think the key thing for us right now has been to, there's several new council members that weren't on the council at the time that this was prioritized. So reacclimating them to this issue, raising it back up and describing that this is something that is very common. Plenty of other cities have structures like this. It is a key way to support, the arts and public art. And so I think that to me is what hoping to make sure comes out of November 30th. So that's it. Thank you.
And Brendan and I have actually been asked and have been participating in sort of an advisory committee that's been put together by the Office of Cultural Affairs, or the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs now, that has been meeting with, we've had a couple meetings now with the consultants that the city's hired to offer our feedback and suggestions. So they're pretty well aware of where SJAA is coming from and what our plans are. Brendan, I don't know if you want to speak to, you've been doing a lot of work with beyond, sort of expanding beyond the arts and cultural community with downtown businesses and organizations, because you work with jazz, but also with other groups. Do you want to speak a little bit to more generally what you've been discussing with regards maybe to the TOT especially, and any other efforts that you're undertaking around hospitality, entertainment support?
Yeah, sure. A quick background on that, and I think useful in part of sort of then trying to engage. I'm not sure what Ted and Catherine you might have questions already, or thoughts to want to get into. But I think it's reflected in right directly, Peter, in the advisory committee that we were both asked to serve on. Right, it's about arts. The title is Arts and Tourism Funding Advisory Committee. I think is the very much the linkage between the arts and culture work and visitorship to San Jose, and that as things have changed, particularly in the downtown economy, as much fewer large conventions coming to town, much less business traveler, Monday through Friday type things of filling hotel rooms. And there's been a real need to kind of consider of what is this interrelationship between hospitality, the arts, culture, entertainment, events, these different components that all are very much interconnected, that I think we have a better appreciation for, having gone through the pandemic and understanding the role of the arts and other things in placemaking and community building, and how you fund that work. And with the TOT having taken such a big hit from the pandemic, and basically because of the nature of our region having largely been driven around business travel, conference associated or other business travel, it's become a more tenuous mechanism I shouldn't say tenuous. I don't believe that, actually. It's not something that is at risk. It's just that it's less. There's less of it happening, and so it's fewer dollars. The city's 5-year projection, if I recall right, it's not projecting those TOT dollars to return to pre-pandemic levels anytime in the next 5 years in real dollar amounts. So the question is like, the city wants to continue advancing its culture work. What is the resources to do that? And so we've been talking, and I think to Peter's point that I was bringing up, I have been trying to bring into the conversation and working with others that more in the hospitalities, like the hoteliers or local restaurants, Downtown Business Association or Team San Jose, these others, about how do we look at advocating for a more robust funding mechanism to be investing into cultural vibrancy, placemaking, etc. So that part of really wanting to raise the question and have a serious conversation at the city council level of what are they projecting TOT to be at? How do we make some changes that will take into consideration this new reality and not just rely upon, like they did this year, of one-time funds taken because they had a surplus, and be able to backfill some key some areas of support like the arts grants program, but really look at, let's establish something more healthy. And for myself, and I don't want to speak out of turn as like a formal recommendation of San Jose arts advocates, but I feel like we should be looking at the idea of a different apportionment of how those TOT, which basically a visitor tax, is allotted. And that of the 40% that currently goes to general fund, the city council should be considering investing more of that into supporting arts and tourism and visitorship. So that's kind of what on the TOT piece, that the argument that I feel like we've been consistently sort of making that and trying to raise that discussion. The consultants that the city hired for this advisory group process, I think they're hearing it from when Peter and I were last in there, that they're hearing that loud from, I think, from the group, and are going to be at least informing the council of this as a potential tool to you. I think, as Peter said, they don't expect them to recommend this particular mechanism as opposed to a different mechanism, but I do feel, and I'm hopeful, that they'll bring forward some good information to give the council an understanding of, if you were to reapportion more of TOT to this purpose, how would that help shore up over a 5-year projection? How might it, what other ways might the city need to consider how it funds other general fund responsibilities or priorities? So I think, is that, Peter?
That's exactly what we need, because that's we're going to be, SJAA will be bringing our own recommendations, our pitches to the council on 5%, but also on the TOT, and we have been very consistent in that our general consensus is that we want to see that the general fund allocation should just all be going towards arts, cultural, and tourism industries, which is where the other 60% goes already. So our opinion is that the whole of the TOT should be going into that, because that's what generates, frankly, the TOT in the first place, is that kind of activity, visitorship, and arts and culture, for arts and culture and other things. I want to give an opportunity. We've got, again, a small group tonight. I see Ted, I see Catherine. Do either of you have any thoughts or questions at this point? Catherine, I see you came off mute, so maybe you have some questions.
I just wanted to introduce myself. I feel kind of Please. Like a lurker in this group. I support the city. I work for the city of Santa Cruz, a Department of Economic Development and Housing, and I manage the city arts programs, and I support our Arts Commission, who has been pushing for exactly this, for 1% of art on private development for a number of years. And we're moving forward. In the city of Watsonville in our South County recently passed one. We have 1% for art on city capital expenditures. And so as the city is exploring expanding our downtown area for future development, and the same as you, we've got a lot of private development going on now. It seems as though we don't want to let the timing get past us. So I appreciate you letting me come and learn from you and see how you're doing this. I really appreciate that a lot.
That's great. And we would, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm sure we would love to see anything. There you go. Any specifics that you're proposing, or anything specifics to the policy, maybe. And I'm sure Amanda's in a lot of research that's pretty much her life doing research on these kind of things. So might know about the Watsonville policy already, but anything you would like to share, we're happy to share again our proposal with you, and hopefully maybe able to inform each other.
Well, thanks. You're further ahead than us. We are the Department of Economic Development. We do have a financial consulting firm advising on potentially different ways to fund many different things as we look to exploring our downtown area and making a new district or adding new fees. But I think the percent for art on private development is starting to get traction. So I am just keep curious to watch how you're working.
Great. Well, we'll definitely keep you in the loop. And I think we've even either you or another someone from Santa Cruz has reached out to us for just to keep them appraised of how we develop.
It may be Jim Brown from our Arts Council.
There you go. Yeah. But thank you so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. And please take the good word back to everyone over the hill.
I admire your work. Thank you.
Well, what I think is great about hearing that, Catherine, is that it speaks to what we said, that we're starting to be surrounded by cities that are either already doing a private percent on public private a percent for art on private development, or they're starting to think about it and moving forward on it, right? We know economic planning group out of the East Bay. I've worked side by side with them on other projects where they're talking to us about the surveying that they're doing around a percent for art ordinance. We were doing that when we were writing the plan for the city of Belmont. And so, that's great to hear. And I think that is an example we can use when we speak to city council members that, hey, not only is it right here, our direct neighbors, but it's also our south neighbors that are also, so let's not be the only ones that aren't, and we are the largest city in our county. Right. So how can we make sure we are on par with what's happening? So thank you for sharing. We appreciate it.
Largest city in the Bay Area too.
I just wanted to add, just for the good of the conversation, I grew up in Sunnyvale, and man, the private percent for our program, it's got to be 30 years. I think that's probably been around. It's so impressive what they have done over there, and and there's really is some wonderful works of art in different settings in Sunnyvale, and it's a pretty cool model to look at.
Yeah, I recommend looking at Sunnyvale. Absolutely.
I know a couple of council members up there. Maybe they can come help us advocate when the time comes. Ted, it's very good to see you, sir. I'm really glad you could make it tonight. I wonder if you wanted to just introduce yourself and if you had any thoughts or questions at this point.
I'm Ted Lorraine, and though I'm also artistic director of the San Jose Chamber Music Society and a secretary on the American Beethoven Society board that helps the Beethoven Center, I'm here because I'm a member of the Silicon Valley Arts Coalition of 11 small but mighty groups, many of them based in San Jose, which has been in existence for maybe 20 years. And I'm the past president, now Cindy Cooper is president. But my portfolio on the SVAC board is, you might say, external relations, or just scoping the arts sector from state to local level and informing and advising the board of the Silicon Valley Arts Coalition. So in that regard, one of the things I've been doing is I observe and report to the SVAC monthly meetings about what the City Arts Commission is doing at their meetings, because we are the only listed sector of the arts that the Arts Commission has not designated a liaison. So we're proactive and we're being the liaison to them. So I also will then relay the priorities and the recommendations, and it's really helpful that you've sent us letters as well as backdrop, but formatted letters to help us with the advocacy for the budget increase.
Great.
Which is very helpful, by the way, because they changed the rules for the City Take Part grant, and you can now get above 15,000 up to 25,000. But with the TOT tanking, it's thanks to that your lobbying and the $1 million that they're able to robustly fund the grants to the current level.
Well, thank you, Ted. Thanks for that. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate everything that the Arts Coalition has done. I remember as an arts commissioner attending your annual I'll say lunch and showcase.
Yes, we used to have a Fet the, I don't know, what was it called? Fet the Press.
Yeah, Fet the Press, exactly. Yeah,
When there was a press, when there was a press to be feted.
Right.
And we had an arts panorama at the old Trianon.
Right.
I think we know we have to reimagine that project of performing collegially for the public.
But I always appreciate it, and I especially appreciate the work you do together, right? To combine your forces, to not just to advocate, but to support each other. Because I think that's just something a trait that's really common in San Jose's arts and cultural scene. We do have a few very, what you would call anchor institutions, or what would traditionally be called anchor institutions, but a lot of those have struggled over the years. But we have Opera San Jose, Symphony San Jose. But the ballet has become New Ballet, right? I would definitely put jazz in that category. But we also have a number, tons of dozens, hundreds of small arts organizations, right? I'm on the board at Teatro Visión, which is our local Chicano Latino theater company. We're definitely in the medium-sized category, and there are a number of great performing arts groups, visual arts groups. But a lot of us are small but mighty, like you said. But we come together to create something, I think, bigger than all of us, and we come together in our diversity. I think that's what I really love about San Jose's art scene, is that there's so much out there. There's so many things we can experience.
One of the priorities that, having lost the Trianon, and what a great loss that was to the performing arts community, especially in that location when the mayor's now calling attention to downtown vitality, and we've had to go outside of downtown to find replacement spaces. But when I think of the theater companies, that I've been a San Jose Rep subscriber, I was a Renegade subscriber, and am a subscriber to the San Jose Stage and City Lights, which face, City Lights developers taking over. I think one of the priority issues is arts facilities, and maybe that says why we need a stronger, better funded arts fund, so that we've got better places downtown, or where we want them, for our groups to perform.
We 100% agree with you there. Brendan, do you want to discuss sort of what we're thinking in terms of using this policy to create those kind of spaces? Yeah, I see Brendan's hand. Go for it.
I was just going to mention, and you're describing there, but you put a San Jose Jazz into the category of those, institution. And I was going to joke that, I'll consider us an institution once I get one of those free City of San Jose owned facilities with a big operating and maintenance budget.
Right. Yeah.
That's such a problem that they've had to come up with a grant proposal this year to help us be able to afford the four key facilities.
Yeah.
And the others, Montgomery, I guess, and Mexican Heritage and
California Theater and
San Jose Museum of Art.
And the Museum of Art, yeah. So the city actually owns, I think it's 6 different cultural facilities, major cultural facilities, including Museum of Art, Children's Discovery Museum, the theaters that were mentioned, and then but almost all of them are run by nonprofits that work in concert with the city to maintain the properties, maintain the structures, but also then provide all the programming, right? So it's very good, very nice symbiotic relationship, but at the same time, it made these facilities, because, for example, even I know this directly with Mexican Heritage Plaza and the School of Arts and Culture, even there, where my organization, my theater company, is a community partner, and we get, probably the lowest end rate on renting the facility, it's still quite inaccessible to a lot of organizations to get into these facilities and to perform in city-owned, right, facilities that are run by fellow nonprofits. So I think one of the key things that I'm certainly looking for, I think a lot of us in the SJAA are looking for out of potentially a private percent policy, would be exploring ways that we can develop spaces like this within private developments, right? You mentioned Stage, Ted, San Jose Stage. They have a very unique opportunity where they're working with a developer who's redeveloping their site, and if they're going to incorporate, stage and their facility within their new project, right? But that's a very unique project where they've worked really hard with the developer. The city is providing a lot of support for that too. So, Brendan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention as part of the conversation about what are the funding mechanisms and is what the council is supposed to be considering on November 30th, what tools might be in the toolbox for them to look at these issues. And when you think about, facilities, so one of the things we had brought up in that last advisory group conversation, Peter, right, with Nancy Klein, seem to acknowledge, like, yes, that you're right, that is a tool. What was the idea of an enhanced infrastructure financing district? And how that might be a mechanism by which these things of, since we have city-owned cultural facilities as a key part of our arts ecosystem here, and the idea that we also do so much of our programming happens like San Jose Jazz out out in our parks, out in our streets. How might you look at an infrastructure financing district as a potential tool that could be used to support the cultural infrastructure? So it'll be intriguing. I don't know if that consultant group is gonna really dig into that or not, if we might see something come forward as a potential consideration. But I know the city was looking at this as a way to advance and further develop and maintain public amenities in the downtown west area where Google was going to be. But it might be a mechanism by which for more of the traditional downtown geography to be considered as a tool. So.
Mhm. Does Jana, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just about Ted had mentioned feeding the press, so I wanted to give our press participant an opportunity. If you want to come off mute, you can ask any questions or get any thoughts at this point.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Actually, the only question I have is, could I look at the policy draft that you guys are submitting to council ahead of time? And, if there's any sort of embargo with that, that's fine. But yeah, just kind of curious about the policy language and such.
I believe the plan is once we have it quote unquote fully vetted. Amanda, you can definitely jump in. We'll more than likely make the proposal itself, all the details, public, available for download and perusal. I don't imagine that tons of folks will want to read the whole thing, so we'll be sharing out like a lot of top line points. But I imagine, Amanda, we'd be happy to share it once.
Yeah, I think we're gonna actually try to have it go into the agenda, right? With a memo. So it'll also be public. We want to have these conversations with council members before it goes, fully public, just so, we can make any edits on our proposal before it goes into the agenda. That's part of why I also want to make sure I'm not saying any numbers right now, just in case things can get, I don't want to be just set on one, it's just percentage, if it can change. So, but Jenna, you will get a chance. Long answer, sorry. Yes.
That's all right. That's helpful. Are there any council members who are more sympathetic or just more inclined to help out here?
Well, I'd say Omar Torres is, just because he's the one who really pushed this forward with us, and prior to him was previous council member Raul Perales.
Mhm.
So and I think a big part of that is because most of the arts organizations, really do a lot of their work in downtown San Jose, or their homes are here in downtown San Jose.
Mhm.
Would you say anybody else, Peter, that you've spoken to?
Well, I mean, certainly we've had a variety of reactions. We made the rounds in the spring with all of the council members, as Brendan pointed out. So there's 10 council members plus the mayor. They all get one vote. The mayor doesn't have executive authority to veto or anything like that. So it's pretty much, you need 6 votes to get anywhere. And as Brendan pointed out, in 2019, I want to say, I counted off the top of my head, I think only 3 of the current council members were on the council at the time when this was the private percent policy was prioritized. So we've actually did a lot of sort of re-education earlier this year. And there's been quite a bit of turnover, including appointments at the council level. So we have seen quite a bit of positive feedback, but we could look back to some of those who've supported the policy in the past.
Did you recall?
Brennan, you have your hand up there.
Do you recall, did Sergio support in that priority setting process? I don't remember offhand who was on it, who voted on it at the council at that time, and whether
He was,
on
yeah,
it.
he was on it. He was on the council at the time. I don't believe he was one of the votes for it. Councilmember Davis actually has been very supportive. She's a very big champion for the arts. Her husband is actually a graphic artist himself, so she definitely is, I say, sympathetic to our cause. And that's just between Councilmember Torres and Councilmember Davis. I think that gives you a really good cross section of, if you think about politics, right? And
Yeah.
conservative versus liberal, business versus, whatever community.
Yeah.
I think it shows that there is a wide interest in supporting this work and supporting the arts and cultural and tourism industries. So we're really hopeful that we'll get a pretty broad range of support from the council.
David Cohen was also on the council in 2019, wasn't he? Oh no, he wasn't.
No, yeah, he's a recent addition, but I think it was Jimenez, Davis, and I want to say Foley were the ones that were on the council at the time. And since then, either folks have turned out, like Councilmember Perales, or there's been Sylvia Arenas got elected to the. She was one of the votes. She got elected to the board of supervisors, so now she's been replaced by an appointment. So a lot of re-education that has to be done, but also a lot of that new people, new faces on the council also means that they have a lot of work to do to get reelected and to ensure that they're doing everything they can to bring their constituents all the quality services and amenities that they can, and that includes us, right? So I think we have a lot of potential again to reach pretty broad consensus. And the feedback we got on this policy early on was generally positive. There's certainly the concern that you hear a lot that developments and developers are overtaxed or overburdened with fees for parks or traffic or what have you. Our belief is that if you work on a policy that's flexible, this is absolutely something that developers would frankly want to do and should want to do to increase the value and the benefits of their own projects, right? And to increase the quality of life in San Jose as a whole, which should hopefully increase the potential for their projects to be successful. So there have been, as Amanda and others I think could point out, there have been developers in San Jose already, private developers who have proactively reached out to the city to develop public art on their properties, right, and to engage in something like this. So we also think we have some champions from the development community who can come to the table and help us advocate as well. Amanda, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, just before we close out, because we're already an hour. But I just want to say, Janet, just so you have, for example, the apartment complex here at where Empire and 7th Street, right? So where Empire 7 used to be, it now still is in a new development on the first floor. The developer worked with the artist group. Another really great major example is Adobe, right? We can see the artwork from the street on their walking bridge. So those are just two, a smaller development and a larger development, and really great examples. We can go to them. We can find out, why they choose to do it and use those statements when we decide to go and talk to other developers and get the buy-in. So there's a lot of work to be had, that's for sure, but it's absolutely worth it. So.
And the mayor did attend the Cornerstone of the Arts Awards event last week and presented one of the major awards. So at the very least, we are on his radar. So
Yes.
he knows we exist. All right. Well, as Amanda pointed out, we are just past 7 o'clock. So it's been wonderful meeting with all of you and seeing all my fellow SJAA ears. As Amanda mentioned, as we fully vet our policy and it becomes public on the council agenda, you'll all get a chance to review it. But if you take our survey, which I pointed out earlier, and you'll get in your emails, you'll see a little bit more about it, and you'll get to provide some feedback to us, and hopefully we can make it even stronger with that feedback. But mostly we want to just know more about our community, and we want to understand what makes you an advocate and how we can better support you, right? So please share that out. Ted, I would really love if you could share the survey link out with all of the Arts Coalition and all your members, and we'll be proactively reaching out to partners in the community to share that out as well. So we'll have a little time to receive feedback, and then we'll share out that data through our advocacy.
Good. I'll be your liaison.
And Ted, others, if you're at all interested in joining our merry cohort, our merry band of pranksters here, Our core team is wide open for membership. We could always use more perspectives and more voices in the room, so we'd welcome you joining us anytime. We meet about once a month. It's very painless on Zoom, and occasionally we will get together for drinks and fun.
Thank you. At least would want to be your liaison to the Silicon Valley Arts Coalition, whether that means membership or just a guest who's there and tracks you guys and connects, as I do with this Arts Commission.
Fabulous, sir. Thank you so much for that offer, and we will take you up on that for sure. All right.
I appreciate the work you've done over the years, Ted, with the Arts Coalition, and all those groups are really important in San Jose. And it's been great having you as a partner on that side of things.
And thank you, Catherine, for joining us from over the hill.
Thanks for
Hope
having me.
it's not too cold over there.
No, no, no. Thank
Great.
you very much. Good luck, and I'll follow your study session and learn from you. I really
Okay,
appreciate
everyone. I'm going to close out the meeting now, but wonderful seeing y'all, and you'll be hearing from us soon.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.